when I started Cumbia 7 years ago, I knew what I didn't want to do. I think that was the primary driver. I knew I didn't want to do Java. I know I didn't want to do .NET. I know I didn't want to do enterprise backend, ERP, accounting, BS systems that are just going to be used by 2 people. No, I wanted stuff that's going to reach hundreds of thousands and millions of people, right? And that's what we chased. Where did we start? We started in Silicon Valley. That's where people adopt technologies that we wanted to work with first. From there, a bunch of our clients got acquired by big enterprises. We got in the back door, if you can say that, and then we started to offer the same services to Fortune 500 companies as we did our initial clients. So it's all about building these products that are going to be consumer facing. And if you look at what's happening right now in the industry, all sectors are being disrupted from all sorts of different sides. So that startup philosophy, that startup, the lean, agile, product launching mechanisms, if you can call it that, or process, is going to be key for these Fortune 500 companies to actually succeed in this new decade. So I think we have a really clear and a pretty big advantage when compared to traditional vendors.
I totally agree with that trend. We have been focusing most of our technologies and practices in how to get to the mobile devices, to whatever is closer to where the action is happening, to be able to identify metrics and what's going on. And I totally agree with you, and I really like the passion you put even when you're saying about that, because this is how we're going to make Latin America grow.
Yep.
With this passion, with this new focus, I think we should make sure we become so good in a bunch of technologies that it doesn't matter where we are, but they will come to us and ask us for our advice. So I totally agree with that.
This industry is about people. Yeah? Human capital is the main variable. In fact, 65% of services offshoring firms are motivated to invest by access to talent. 83% view availability of talent as their most significant risk. So this is, first, an industry around people. And you know what? I have good news for those looking at Latin America and the Caribbean. Countries, regions, get something that sociologists, demographists call the demographic bonus or the demographic dividends. That happens every century and a half, 2 centuries. What does that mean? For a sustained period of time, you have people in working age population. In fact, Latin America and the Caribbean, within the next 40 years, okay, the working age population will expand. That means that's something very unique. For 40 years, the working age population will expand. Look at Europe. It's the opposite. Therefore, on that supply side, you have that trend. You see policymakers, many of which are here today, some from the Caribbean, some from Central America, from other regions as well, working on training human capital for the global services sector. The IDB were funding many of those programs. So if you combine that demographic dividend, that bonus, with the fact that the region is getting its act together in terms of training, you have really the place to be. If you add on top of that the fact that on the demand side, the demography in the US, between 2000 and 2006, Hispanics, well, first of all, the US is the second Spanish-speaking country in the world. You all know that. And by 2050, US will be the first Spanish-speaking country in the world. The Spanish-speaking population in the US is by 2015, next year, is the 9th largest economy. It's the G10. And you have the region right here that feeds services to that. So if you put all those things in strategic perspective, you say, hey, it's the place to be.
Over at Santex Group, I love hearing about your organization. Tell us a little bit more about how you kind of evolved into some of these newer areas like big data, and what things were you hearing from your clients that enabled you to see there's an opportunity there?
Oh, well. It actually has to do with the demand itself. I mean, the whole market is trending to a certain point, and there are actual needs there as the population grows, as a business itself grows, as the market grows. They all need, for instance, more information. They need information right now. They don't need it for tomorrow. They don't need it for, I don't know, in 1 hour it would be too late. So these kind of things, these sort of things, requires a whole new set of technologies, and besides these new technologies, a whole new set of managing things and trying to be more efficient, more productive. And that's where, for instance, this whole agile movement starts to taking place, because it goes much more on the line that you have to be you have to provide business value to clients. You have to be always striving to deliver something really quick instead of wasting a lot of time preparing things to be delivered sometime soon.
Tell us what the genesis was to getting into oil and gas, which begins to look more and more like a brilliant move for you being in Mexico.
Well, for those of you who don't know, starting this year, at some point, there will be new detailed laws that will allow private sector to operate oil rigs. So, since we have a very strong practice in integrating systems, BPMs, and all kind of mashups, we ran into an opportunity where we had to integrate in a very, very short time the ERP of an oil rig with the ERP of a company. If we didn't deliver on time, the penalties were going to be so big that we had such a great pressure. So we had to send people to Norway, to Russia, to Ukraine, in order to get access to that talent and that passion, so we can make a team that can have the experience in this kind of technologies and the passion and the talent of our local team in order to deliver on time. So. And this is a very good example of where we are targeting our opportunities, because we have also built a very strong practice in terms of we have a lot of clients in aluminum industry, manufacturing of aluminum. So probably 3 out of the 5 largest companies are our clients. And it's another very interesting niche. So we think in order to stop competing $1 here or $1 there, for all these huge corporations, we are identifying all the niches that we could attack and make it profitable as a company. And again, we need to create added value jobs in Mexico. We don't want to be competing with India or China for who pays less and who gets more tax credits. We want to develop a really strong talent pool that can make a difference in our country. So oil and gas is a great example, but thanks to God and to the new administration, we will have 12 industries that are going to boom in the next couple of years.
The biggest differentiator, like you said, is not going to be like who's the cheapest. I think the Asian countries already won, and probably some in Eastern Europe when they're not revolting. But I think that the new is going to be about first of all getting the right people. Recruitment, there's a ton of people that are really excited to be working in products like this. And number 2 is really understanding both the technology and the opportunity that's there to provide that value added. It's not so much about delivering code or designs or anything, but delivering business objectives that really do move the needle.
So as you're going after talented people, what's your proposition to them?
We build stuff that gets acquired by companies like Google, BMC, Motorola Solutions, Demandforce, and we're working with the top Silicon Valley companies, both seed round through B rounds, doing the best work.
You mentioned oil and gas, and you guys do software technology, video games, BPO, contact centers. Okay? He's adding value, and I commend you for that. Adding value to the comparative advantage of the oil that companies that are in Mexico. Look at Latin America. Relate natural resources to services, and that's another strategic analysis that you have to do. Let me give you some numbers. Latin America happens to have the highest per capita availability of fresh water in the world, 3rd of the renewable water resources available are in Latin America, and you know how much value is being added to water, how much knowledge, how much services.
But how does that really affect technology, like software technology specifically?
Chile sells, exports mining engineering services
Right.
to Asia. Chile, who is in a seismic land, sells anti-seismic architecture.
Okay.
So the buildings in China are being created by Chilean architects that know anti-seismic architecture. Uruguay, which we have a lot
No,
of
but
cows,
in
we sell software.
Software, okay.
Software for traceability. You put a
Alright.
chip in the cow. You have your New York strip steak. It says the cow Juanita was killed on 20 November. Okay, and that's because she had a chip, and that's software for traceability. It's a service that is being exported by Uruguay to other countries in the world. Australia sells more, exports more services, high value added services related to agriculture than actual agricultural goods. So think about Latin America and the Caribbean as a region rich in natural resources in which we are adding value through software, through traceability, through many other innovations. We just did the first solar panel stadium out of Brazil for this World Cup, first in the world. They just, Brastec just invented plastic made out of sugarcane, which instead of oil and petroleum. All that is in services, is knowledge that is being exported. Not only software,
No, I understand.
consulting, engineering, architecture, all that. The FIFA 2014 that the kids play, it's made out of Buenos Aires, Globant. So the region is innovative, and it has the natural resources, it has the people, and that make your numbers.
Question is, Jonathan, when you start hiring beyond yourself, and each and every one of you are obviously educated in the U.S., so you get the context. How do you make sure when you go from 200 people to 2,000 in Bogota, let's say for example, how do the 1,900 get context?
That's a great question. So first of all, you can't do that at that scale. Globant has tried. Their attrition rate is over 25% according to the S1 filings from last year. So, that's not where innovation happens. If you want innovation, you have to have a select group of people. You can't reach those numbers, clearly. In our case, we're only 90 people. So we've tried to keep it small. We're very focused. We do a lot of in-house training. We do a lot of follow-ups with people to make sure that they're on to the latest trends. Just as an example, on Saturday, we did a product validation workshop on Saturday. So this is the type of thing that it trickles down. And since we've grown entirely from our core team, it's really helped us maintain that level of discipline, curiosity, passion throughout the entire team. So we only hire people that belong with these categories, like these characteristics. Otherwise, you can't really do this. So going back to your answer on the billions, not millions, the future for Latin America is not outsourcing. And companies like us, we're the problem, not the solution. We're not supposed to be the providers for the rest of the world, but rather we can compete at the same level as a US-based software company. They don't have any advantage. They don't have better tools, they don't have better knowledge, they don't have better insights. They just have more discipline and know how to actually get customers. Because anybody can build anything, but getting it to sell is a whole different story, right?
So Jonathan, let me just jump in because I think this is relevant. Does it matter whether you're in Colombia, Ecuador,
Yeah.
Venezuela, Cuba, regarding your comment? I mean,
Well, except for Cuba, but it really depends on the countries, right? As an example, Venezuela is shut off from the world. Argentina is on the brink of, or has been on the brink of collapsing for the last 10 years.
Yeah, so I'm Uruguayan.
No, I know.
I'm Uruguayan, so I'm objective. Just imagine.
Yeah.
Google has 400 people in Argentina.
Yeah.
400 people working in Puerto Madero in Buenos Aires,
Yeah.
okay, which are 21, 22-year-olds that speak 4 languages, that are middle class, not elite, not economic elite
Yeah.
from the upper echelons. They're still very, very bright. So
You guys got a head advantage.
The
That's the thing.
generalizations,
It's not that
are
they're
hard
better.
sometimes.
And don't ignore Globan, by the way. That's a success story
No,
that doesn't come out of just.
No, I respect what they do and really wish them the best. But honestly, when 1 out of 4 people in your company leave, you're doing something wrong.
And I think it's.
But there's full
you say what you will. Say
But
what
in
you will.
Colombia, there's full employment in the sector. The thing is increasing human capital. Uruguay exports 7 times more software than Colombia, 3 million and 42 million. Why? Because it jumped to this from very early.
You guys have a head advantage.
But you guys are doing very well because you're doing training with, go to Cali.
If you give me $20 million like Globan had, I will build you a company with 2,000 people. But we're bootstrapped, so it's completely different philosophies. But what I'm going at is, I think the changes in what's happening the last 5 years in Colombia is going to really put us above both Uruguay, Argentina in a matter of years, right? Because our population is larger, our internal market is larger. And I would argue that we're smarter, but I can't prove that here with your like the stats you have.
No.
But the point is,
You're thinking provincially. You're thinking provincially. Investment happens in different countries.
Yeah.
You're thinking competing, and that's the problem in Latin America.
Okay, well, I want to get to that. That's the next
that's
point.
provincial.
But I want to get to Gustavo's
Sorry.
point first on this topic, and then we'll talk about that.
First of all, I don't think it's the same, all of these different countries. I think that's, I don't really understand why you're saying this. Because Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley because you have access to the great universities, to a lot of money, to an ecosystem. I think probably from the Latin American countries, and I'm not biased, I'm talking about facts, the most mature market is Mexico. For many things, it's the largest economy. There are so many structural things that are universities. Talk about national university. 173,000 active students in one campus. The Polytechnical in Mexico is 110,000 students.
that's quantity. That you can't really assess if they're really
I
good.
agree, but I waited until you were finished. Don't confuse passion with rudeness.
Whoa.
Okay, so we're talking about hubs, and hubs size matters at some point. It depends, the second or third largest trading partner with US, and US is the largest economy. So we have been kings of the outsourcing in terms of manufacturing since India was not India in the terms of outsourcing of services. I think they have done a great job. I do agree they have some special passion as you have, and you grew up something very successful without not structural support, as India did, because they had no internet, they had no many things, and they did magic. But now let's talk about the facts. And I was thinking that, to be honest, if we are very strict with the definition of nearshore, there's only one country that's, that can
That must be
fulfill.
Canada.
And the second variable was going to be weather, but it was my loss. No? So I think instead of competing, we are nicer, we are better, we dance better than you. I mean, I do believe.
Let's be honest about the thing that I think is the root of the competitive element, to be honest with you. One of the biggest ones is the search for talent, a global demand for high-quality talent in your sectors. I've just noticed it time and again. There's a lot of ill will when a provider might move to Bogota, Globant, and I knew another provider, and they felt like they got robbed of a bunch of talent. So I'm not trying to point fingers, but it's competitive, right? And that's part of the equation here, am I right?
They did that as well. I know that the market in Bogota, when they arrived, and then another big firm, which I don't recall their name, they really disrupted the market. They would just hire blindly. It's like, how much do you earn? I'll pay double or whatever. So hiring like that, and again, when you have a lot of cash, you can do really, I call it smart, stupid, I don't know what it is, but disruptive things, right? But recruiting aggressively like that is going to just, you're going to get a bunch of people that might not be the right fit. And I think that they're creating more enemies than there are allies.
There's tremendously talented people from these different firms doing software services, but there's a certain amount of, hey, we don't want to share too much about what we're up to because we want to keep our people.
I think that the region is doing something about it, the programs that are out there. Look at Ireland, for example. Why Ireland managed to ride the wave of the crisis, and you look at the numbers in Ireland. It's not only it hosts in Europe most of the high-tech firms out there, but through its ecosystem of collaboration between academia and private sector, it really is a country that has done things well, and you see that increasingly in the region. We're talking about public-private partnerships for training right there. There's money out there. This is not theoretical. There's money in Colombia right now for training in Cali, Medellin, and Bogota. There are 31 finishing schools in Uruguay, 19 from the IT sector, 8 from the BPO companies that come and set the criteria for the curricula, for the content, and the government is paying for the training. We have a complex, my son the doctor, in Latin America. We all wanted our sons to be, mi hijo el doctor, to be a lawyer or a doctor. And if he's not a lawyer or a doctor, no, my son is not a lawyer or a doctor. No, the world has changed. You need more IT engineers, you need graphic designers, you need artists. Software is changing as well. It's not only IT people, as you guys know. It's a mixture of interdisciplinary skills.
We only compete with the globals, and in LATAM, we are only proud of very few very successful companies as SoftTech that can play as a global player. But besides SoftTech and probably one or two more, we are alone in the desert. So I never seen competition in the mid-sized companies. Let me just share one very interesting thing that happens to us. We decided that the talent was so important that we were going to create a business unit focused on identifying the talent, and we called it Fuga de Cerebros. Fuga de Cerebros in English means brain drain, because we identified that all qualified people in Mexico and all our neighbor countries, whenever there was someone very qualified, it went to live to London or to Paris or somewhere in US or Canada. And we realized that if we didn't catch all this talent and create a strong enough pool, we were never going to be able to compete with added value, because we will never have the added value at home. So something very weird that we never expected happened, that what we thought were our competitors became our clients. And we started providing services to these giant companies that we never thought we were going to be. I think it's a very good example that instead of saying that we compete, we need to get all together. And I would really think that we need to take advantage of Guadalajara, of León, of Querétaro, of all these cities that have a strong universities, that already have 1,000 people plus delivery centers. And I would love to see more people from Colombia, Argentina, and all these places to take advantage of Mexico.